I'm Rhonda Davison, and welcome back to Manifest Maven Moments, episode 11. And this is my short daily segment where I'll be sharing thoughts and lessons about things centered around energy and healing. I invite you to subscribe, follow my socials, comment down below, and share. I want to be in discussion with you about these things. And I want to know what topics you want to learn more about. Let's be in this journey together. Today, it's on my heart to talk about the grief journey. And for me, this is most prevalent in the story of my parents. My father died in 2014. And I think at that time, I probably had a self-diagnosed mental emotional breakdown. About 6 months after he died, I was moving into my new house and my family was helping me, and all of a sudden I landed myself in the hospital for a month. I had to regain my strength to walk again because that's how sick I was. I developed a really bad infection. It was like an episode of House, I'll just say that. In the hospital, the week that they couldn't control my fevers, and I was on 3 different antibiotics. They had to implant a PICC line to give me said antibiotics. I had blood transfusions. I was really ill. But during that time, it felt like such a surreal experience, and I was in so much pain. I couldn't walk. I was bargaining with God, and I said to God, if this is my time, you can take me. I'm ready to be with my dad. And then they would bring in my daughter to visit, and little by little by little, I started getting my strength back, and I started to fight because I knew I needed to be with her and she needed me. So it took me a month to regain my strength before I could leave the hospital, and a couple of months after that to build my strength back up. But I really attribute me being that sick to how I was handling my grief journey. I wasn't handling it. I was trying to push it down, but I literally cried, sobbing, gut-wrenching tears every day for about 2 years. I felt like it was Groundhog's Day, that every night I would forget, and every morning it was like being punched in the face when I would remember that my father died. So yeah, I was just absolutely heartbroken, and I didn't have any tools to navigate that journey. And what I did was I pushed it down until it exploded every day. And then I would close myself off. I wouldn't talk to anybody. My friends tried to be there, I guess, in their way. But I wouldn't have it. So, I've had other relatives and really important people pass. And I feel like I disconnected from those situations. I went through the motions. I was sad. I grieved in a way, but I don't really think I was grieving in a way that was healing me until after I learned about spiritual fitness and started practicing intensati, met Patricia, learning about energy and how we have the tools that we need, learning how to process emotion. My mother died about 8 months ago, and believe you me, she's my best friend, not here. I miss her every day. But I'm better equipped to understand what I need to do for myself. And how to navigate this grief journey in a more healthy way for myself. And hopefully I can share something with you that you can take away. It's a hard subject to talk about. I had started videos on this a couple of times and been overwhelmed with emotion, because it's a hard thing to talk about. Because just because you know how to navigate it in a more healthy way doesn't mean you miss your loved ones or miss those you've lost any less. So what were some of those tools? Well, the first is developing my QHHT practice and learning from those the different types of energy and how the energy, it doesn't die, it transitions to a different form, but the love is still there. And to be able to process that and open my mind to possibility, which I had never been open to before, that my loved ones went to heaven. That's what my personal belief, and with God, and I had not been open to a new way of communicating with them other than a prayer. I read Dolores Cannon's book, Between Death and Life. And in this book, Dolores recounts several sessions with clients that had near-death experience. And in every single story, the client describes how beautiful the other side is and how they're so pulled and drawn to it that they don't want to return to their body, to their physical body. And each story is just so beautiful that it makes me know my loved ones are on the other side and they're happy. I miss them, but they're happy. And then I read 2 books by Laura Lynn Jackson. I read The Light Between Us and Signs, The Secret Language of the Universe. And in these 2 books, Laura shares the stories about the loved ones that have transitioned and how beautiful the experience is. And that there's signs that we can ask for. They come in different forms, such as maybe animals, such as hummingbirds, such as butterflies or dragonflies or deer, billboards and electronics, that the other side can play with these things to bring us a sign, and for us to be very specific and ask for the sign that you want your loved one to bring. And my example of that most recently is I had asked my dad to send me a sign of Christy Brinkley. Random, right? But there's a story to that. My dad, when I was young, we watched National Lampoons, and I remember him saying that she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen on television, and that had she needed to be bald, she would still be the most gorgeous woman with the features that she had. And it was just a funny story. So as I was visiting my father at the cemetery, my parents at the cemetery, I teasingly said to my mother, I said, I want signs of, Christmas songs from Elvis, and I want from my father signs of Christy Brinkley. So the next week, my daughter and I decided to start watching Parks and Recreation on Hulu, I think. So all of a sudden, I'm watching the show, and who's a guest star but Christy Brinkley? Random. It's so random. But is it? I don't believe it is. It's the sign that I asked for. Next couple of days, I heard Blue Christmas by Elvis, random in the store. And really, I never usually listen to music anymore. It's only when I'm in a store that I overhear something on their systems there, because I usually listen only to books in the car now. But yeah, she brought me my Elvis song. So, and the thing is that these signs, it's a sort of a way to communicate, and that your loved one can tell you they're okay from where they are. And back in 2014, when my father died, I remember specifically when people would tell me that, feathers are coming, and, that, oh, here's a feather, I just found it. And I would get angry. I got so angry. And I would say, you silly, I wouldn't say it out loud. I'd say it in my head. You idiot. Like your coat has down feathers inside it. And I was just being mean and vicious, and it didn't make me feel better. Sharing signs with my siblings, being able to share that language of signs even with your loved ones. And when I see a license plate that says something very specific about the Yankees, I'm like, that's my parents sending me a sign. Isn't that a better way to live? For me, it is. And I hope that you find something in that. And then the last book I want to share is a book by Francis Weller. It's called The Wild Edge of Sorrow, Rituals of Renewal and the Sacred Work of Grief. It describes how it's thought to be heroic to muscle it up and do it alone, but that's not really the way it has to be. If we can build a community of people actively listening and being able, having a place to share our grief, and somebody listening, acknowledging and saying it's okay to have that grief, what kind of healing can happen there? And I'm looking to make a program where we have a space to do that. Don't have all the details yet, but stick with me, and I'm going to create something. Francis Weller says in the book, there's just not been a place for us to bring our grief. And our grief is waiting for the village to show up. So just listening deeply to one another and just letting each other know that our grief matters, it can be so healing. I've found that there's 5 steps to healing, and they all begin with the E. So the 5 E's of healing for me. The first is elevate. Get around people who are evolving themselves, right? Evolving themselves, listening, that they have the emotional capacity to hold space for one another. Read these new books with new ideas in them. The next E is energy. There are so many rituals that involve energy that can change our state of being, such as breath work and crystals and smudging, singing bowls, Reiki, hypnosis, and meditation. And I'm going to do a whole session, a whole video on energy and rituals. Evolve. Open our mind to new ideas. Really know what you need and have that love and compassion for yourself. Take those breaks that you need for your grief journey, to explore your feelings, to feel your feelings. No more disconnecting for me. That's a promise. And then the next E is exercise. And that just means move your body, move that energy, the grief around. Take yourself for a walk. It's my intensati practice. I need that daily in my life. I need to be speaking those affirmations to heal myself. And the last E, embody. Immerse yourself in the stories of your loved ones. Hear them, accept them. Feel gratitude, pictures and videos, whatever you have. During Christmas time, my sister, it was brilliant. She played her wedding video for Christmas Eve. Actually, it was on a loop, so it just kept playing over and over, so we could be in and out and see the parts that we wanted to see. But to see my beautiful parents when they were young and dancing and happy, and so many other relatives and friends that have passed, to see them in their prime. And it was just so healing. And to do that with my siblings, where we could, give each other hugs and cry and, share these stories. So, don't be afraid to do that. Just immerse that was so healing for me to, immerse myself in that video. Like the right thing. It felt almost like they were there with us, their presence and their energy. And I believe, their energy was with us that day, being with us. We call it to us, that we have a whole team of guardian angels on the other side, and the veil is just so thin. And I never realized or knew that before I read these books, or would really want to lean into those signs as a way of communication. So I guess I just want to leave you with finding the gratitude in all of it. Really deeply finding gratitude. So if anything I said today resonates with you and you'd like to know more, you want to comment down below, tell me about your loved one. Put their name below. Let's think of them and their energy together. Let's ask for signs together.